Whether or not the human person is free is a big question. There is a school of thought that argues that the human person has a predetermined purpose so that his essence precedes his existence, and therefore there is no freedom to speak of. Such a school of thought is essentialism. On the other hand, a school of thought abandoning the whole idea of predetermination and contending that the human person's existence precedes his essence is existentialism. In existentialism, freedom is the core or serves as the heart of an ethical existence. Nietzsche's notion of self mastery cannot be viewed apart from the concept of freedom. But are we really free? Do we really own our choices? Are we the authors of our actions or decisions? These are some of the issues that require resolutions. If we are free, how come we cannot just do anything that we would like to do? We cannot simply take groceries from a convenience store without the consent of the owner and without paying, or take money from the bank as we desire, or own a property that does not belong to us at any moment. That is because our decisions and actions are not totally ours, according to Nietzsche. We decide or act in accordance with what certain systems expect us to do. In this sense, we are not authentically free. Our freedom is restricted by certain values from a recognized authority. This authority is the source of what Nietzsche calls objective values. By objective values, I am referring to those values imposed by religion, regulation or law, and tradition, which are premised on shame, fear, and guilt. Every objective value emanates from a certain authority. Metaphorically, such authority is God. In order for the human person to maximize his freedom, he must first remove the authority from the equation. This means that the objective values that dictate his decisions or actions are eliminated. Nietzsche has been very popular in the controversial and misunderstood pronouncement that God is dead. The death of God here simply means the death of objective values. God is simply a metaphor for the objective values. However, a problem now would arise. If there are no objective values, how would the human person act? Isn't it that these values give direction to the human person? These values are the very framework that a human person considers when he makes a choice, when he decides, or when he performs an act. If there are no values, the human person is left hanging at the center of the desert without knowing where to go. He becomes immobile and undecided. This dilemma is referred to as the paradox of choice. To put an end to this dilemma, the human person should have the will to power to come up with a new set of values that will serve as his direction in his incessant quest for the meaning of his life. As he abandons the objective values, the subjective values are created. Or as he becomes critical to the objective values, he does not immediately accept them unconditionally. The objective values are transformed into creative values. The process of appraising objective values is known as revaluation, and the process of transforming objective values to subjective ones is known as transvaluation. What are the differences between the objective values and subjective values? Firstly, objective values are heteronomous. Subjective values are autonomous. This means that objective values are from without, while subjective values are from within. Objective values are handed down by a certain authority, while subjective values are self-legislated values. Secondly, Objective values curtail the maximization of freedom, while subjective values are outcomes of the exercise of freedom. Thirdly, objective values are reactive values, while subjective values are creative values. And lastly, objective values are artificial to the self, while subjective values are natural to the self. Values are requisites in making choices, deciding, and acting. No action is possible without values. Noted with caution, not all of us can make life affirming values that are supposed to lead us to no regrets. There is an important requirement before one can revaluate or transvaluate. That is self mastery. Only someone who has achieved self mastery can make authentic choices. Nietzsche describes the person who has attained self mastery as the Ubermensch, or the Overman, or the Superman, or the free spirit. By self mastery, it means that there is a concordant balance between reason and passion, between the Apollonian nature and the Dionysian nature of the human person. One should not dominate over the other, since reason without passion is mediocrity, and passion without reason is tyranny. Only when these two fundamental dimensions of the human person are mastered that credibility to make subjective values is achieved. To illustrate this principle, a robber cannot justify his act by claiming that such action is an outcome of the subjective values that he created and imposed upon himself. A robber, in the first place, has not achieved self mastery. In the act of robbing, passion prevails over reason. Someone who has attained self mastery can legislate subjective values, make authentic choices, and maximize freedom. Freedom is not to do what one ought to do according to the rules of society, but to do what one ought to do according to the substantive and procedural laws promulgated by the self. It is a challenge for each individual to attain self mastery and to be free because both reason and passion are inherent and integral components of the self. Man cannot choose not to be free because, in choosing not to be free, freedom to choose is at work. To choose not to be free then is a contradiction. In this light, freedom is viewed not as dominance or exploitation of others, but as the mastery of oneself. It is a responsible freedom and not that which is destructive to others and to their freedom. Freedom and responsibility should always oscillate in an orderly manner. One should recognize that others are also capable of attaining self mastery and becoming authentically free like the true self. Self mastery should not be understood merely as the end in itself. It should be understood merely as a means to attain a more important goal. Self mastery is a dynamic process oriented towards giving meaning to human existence. Self mastery is a project that is projected to the attainment of extreme happiness. In short, to master oneself is to balance reason and passion, choose, decide, act authentically, maximize freedom, and eventually live an extremely happy life. To be free is to be, and to be is to be more, and to be more is to superhumanize. The human person should liberate himself from the false self. He must be the master of his fate, the captain of his ship, and not a slave of laws, religion, or tradition. He should not remain a human, but should transcend as a superhuman because greatness is not only what one becomes, it is also what one overcomes. Self mastery or self overcoming implies a certain type of morality of the powerful and the strong willed. Hence, might is right, or might make right, should be contextually understood as only possible is if one has achieved self-mastery. Thank you.